Joey, what's she really like?
She's the most exciting woman I ever met.
Yeah?
Retro Game Spotlight, Mrs. Pac-Man. In 1981, Mrs. Pac-Man made her debut and quickly became one of the most iconic arcade games of all time. This game actually started out as an unauthorized Pac-Man mod called Crazy Otto, but was then ultimately acquired and officially released by Midway as a sequel to Namco's smash hit Pac-Man. Fortunately for players, Mrs. Pac-Man wasn't just a simple rehash. She brought significant improvements over the original that made it more engaging and challenging. For starters, the game introduced 4 different maze layouts compared to Pac-Man's single maze, adding variety and keeping players on their toes. The fruit prizes now moved around the maze, making them hard to grab but more rewarding. And the biggest change? Smarter ghost AI. Unlike in Pac-Man, where ghost movements were more predictable, the ghosts in Mrs. Pac-Man had improved pathfinding, making gameplay less about memorization and more about quick reflexes. The game also added a fun bit of storytelling with animated cutscenes, a first for the series. These intermissions showed Mrs. Pac-Man and Pac-Man meeting, falling in love, and eventually having a baby, setting up the introduction of Junior Pac-Man for later games. And this little bit of personality helped Miss Pac-Man stand out as more than just a sequel. It became a defining game of the golden age of arcades. It's impossible to talk about Miss Pac-Man without recognizing her as one of gaming's first major female protagonists. She wasn't just a simple reskin of Pac-Man. She was a character in her own right, starring in a game that went on to outsell the original Pac-Man in North America. That's right, Mrs. Pac-Man was so popular that more arcades stocked it over its predecessor, cementing its status as one of the most beloved arcade games of all time. And despite licensing disputes over the years between Midway and Namco, Miss Pac-Man has remained a fan favorite, appearing in countless arcade collections, home consoles, and even modern crossovers. She's a gaming legend in her own right, and to this day she continues to be a go-to classic for both retro enthusiasts and newcomers alike. So did you grow up playing Miss Pac-Man, and if so, what was your highest score? Share your memories of this arcade legend with us in the comments.
She's the most exciting woman I ever met.
Yeah?
Atari introduces the Woman of the Year, Ms. Pac-Man. Just like the arcade classic, 4 different game screens, floating fruit, even pretzels.
Honey, don't you know I'm more than Pac-Man with a bow?
Reach for Ms. Pac-Man.
Reach for a